He initially did his education at the Addis Ababa University in 1980, where he got his BSc in geology. He then continued at the University of California in Berkeley, where he got his MA in anthropology in 1983. He then did his PhD as well in anthropology at the University of California, which he received in 1988. He has many affiliations that he actually is holding at the current time. I'll mention some of the highlights. Since 2008, he's been a foreign associate of the National Academy of Science in the United States. Since 2010, a fellow of the Academy of Sciences in Ethiopia. Since 2010 also, fellow of the Academy of Sciences for the Developing World, TWAS. Since 2010, permanent member of the Academy of Ethiopian Languages and Cultures Academy. Since 2006, until the present, a member of the Board of Trustees of the Paleoanthropological Scientific Trust, PAST, which is based in South Africa. Also, since 2005 up until today, he is a board member of the Institute for Human Evolution University for Witwatersrand, Johannesburg. From 1978 until 1980, he also served as a member for the Center for Research and Conservation of Cultural Heritage, which is based at the Ministry of Culture in Ethiopia. So again, someone who really, I think, knows Ethiopia quite well, in particular from the anthropological side, based on his experience as well as his studies. So in many ways, I think he can really give some excellent insights into actually the identity as well as the anthropology of Ethiopia. The lecture that he will be giving us now is focusing more actually on archaeological findings as well as wildlife in Ethiopia. So I would ask you, ladies and gentlemen, please to join me for a very, very warm welcome for Professor Dr. Berhane Asfaw. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks. Wow, this is a great honor. As an academic, it is really flattering when you hear somebody talking about you with such kind of, anyway, dear excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I'm really pleased to present my 30 years of experience in paleoanthropological research in Ethiopia with all of you. As a physical anthropologist, as a person who is really dedicated in finding a lot about humankind, especially about the origin of humans, I'm so proud that I'm Ethiopian, because this is a place where everything began. As an academic, when you say where everything began, then you have to be credible. Credibility is the most important thing in science, especially in academics. That's what I really want to do now. I want to show you why do you think that Ethiopia is unique? Why do we think that everybody should share this treasure of knowledge with Ethiopians? I know I'm dealing with a subject matter which has basically immense implications. This has been explained by His Excellency, the Ambassador. The whole world, everybody, whether you call it black, white, or yellow, anything, all races, are all Ethiopians. I'll try to show you and demonstrate to all of you why we think that we are all Ethiopians. Before I go into the fossils, I really want to tell you something about the present Ethiopia. The present Ethiopia links the past with the present. This is a beautiful, unfortunately, the light. Is there any way that we can turn off this light? The stage light? Yeah. Can we turn off the light? Okay. This is a beautiful view, but it's not very old, because I see everything in terms of time. This is a spectacular view, about 130 kilometers west of Addis Ababa. I like it because it is the source of most of the volcanic ash that we use to date our fossils in the Afar. But for the others, it's just a very scenic and beautiful place. That's why I think Ethiopia is blessed, which we never really took advantage of, to share with the whole world. The diversity of people and the diversity of landscape and the opportunity to learn about our past. See a different diversity, an extreme. The one I showed you earlier is about 1 million years old. In terms of time, when you talk about the age of the Earth, that is almost like 5 minutes ago, or even less. And this is also another one, which is about 1 million years old or less. This is, when you walk on this land, you would think that you are walking on moon, but it is in Ethiopia. Now you can see the diversity. The diversity is impressive. When you go to Ethiopia, you go to a place where you will experience everything. The only thing we don't have is the North Pole. We don't have snow, unless you go to the very tip of the Semen Mountains, which you would be able to see just a tiny bit of it. This is the Semen Mountains. So the diversity of the landscape is impressive. And that is. And these animals that you see, the warrior ibex, it is in a refugium, the only species on Earth. But it is history. It is biological history. Is also embedded in the fossil records of Ethiopia, which I will show later. We are the only groups evolved in Ethiopia, populated the different parts of the country, the different parts of the continent through time, and then we moved out of Africa and we populated the whole world. The only ones successful. For the last 6 million years, we lived in Ethiopia, we evolved in Ethiopia, and we moved out and we populated the whole world. Some of them are not fortunate enough, the other species, like the warrior ibex. The only place you will find it is only in the Semen Mountains. That's not the only one. The gelada baboon is another one. If you go into the fossil records, you'll find it from around 4-5 million years ago, bits and pieces of it, and then you find them all the way through the different layers in the fossil records. But now, you find them only in Ethiopia. You don't find them anywhere else. Not fortunate like humans, who moved out and populated the whole world for the best or the worst, which we don't know. We'll see in the future. But that's how it is. But these guys are like in a refugium. You find them in the highlands of Ethiopia only, in the Bale Mountains, and the Shua high mountains, and also same with Nyala, same thing. When you go into the fossil record, they were abundant. But now, they are in a refugium. So anyway, this is something that we have to share and protect with you. And if we share them because they belong to you. They belong to all of us. Even though by chance they happen to be in our boundary, in our political boundary, but these are the properties of the whole world. That's why we have to protect them together. That's why we have to share them with all of you. So when you come to Ethiopia, you have the blessing of seeing these unique things that you can't see anywhere else in the world. Same thing with red fox. You don't find it anywhere else. But when you go into the fossil record, it was abundant. Now, it's unique to this country. Now I'm going to take you to the real fossils. It's very difficult to present a summary of the fossil record in Ethiopia, because if I want really to put the fossils, all the fossil sites, from around, if I just decide to cut a time, the youngest time, as long as there are humans, they leave either their bones or their belongings behind. They leave, they die, and then they get buried by sediments. And then it is those sediments that we study. So when we walk in Ethiopia in different parts, especially in the Rift Valley, every place you go, if it is exposed, meaning if the topsoil is washed, there is something, there is a fossil, or there is an artifact. But here, I presented only the older ones, because if I want to put every place where we found artifacts and human remains, the whole map will be packed. So when we walk, and every piece of land in Ethiopia, if it's not a highland or barren land, there is a fossil. It's a historic or a prehistoric site. That is the beauty. So when you are walking in any place in Ethiopia, you are walking on the same land that your ancestors walked on 6 million years ago, 5 million years ago, 4 million years ago, all the way to the present. Ethiopia is unique because it has a record of everything. From the beginning of mankind, meaning for me, mankind means a little bit different because the ape that evolved in a different direction, separate from the chimpanzees and gorillas that are still walking on 4 legs. That's the first human that started walking on 2 legs. Whether it has a shape of this kind or that kind, it's a human because it started walking on 2 legs. And then it becomes more human when it started using tools. Even that is also recorded in the Ethiopian soil. Let me take you, this is the Afar Triangle. Now you can see the full cluster of sites. The famous Lucy is found at Hadar, right here. Recently, young Ethiopian researchers like Dr. Yohannes Haile Selassie, Zarasanna Alam Sagad, young and vigorous researchers started also extending the survey. And then they are finding, now this is a new skeleton. It's good, but older than Lucy. Was found just to the north of Hadar. Zarasanna Alam Sagad started working on the south side of Hadar. Then he started finding more and more fossils of Australopithecus afarensis. This one is almost 3.6 million years old. When you go a little bit to the south, about 40 kilometers south from Yohannes Haile Selassie's site, just adjacent to the Lucy site, there is another young Ethiopian archaeologist doing a research. That student is the professor now, Dr. Seleshi Samma. He found lots of stone tools, about 2.6 million years old. This is the oldest site ever found in the world to show that humans were using stone tools at that time. And it's only at Gona that this record is found. You go souther, that is the Middle Awash. I'll talk into it extensively. In the Middle Awash, the oldest site is close to 6 million years. The youngest fossil-bearing sediments are about 60,000 years. But there are about 13 different labels from the bottom to the top, and each label has a human remain. So I will take you through these different chapters of our past history and show you what we have in our country, and that's what we want to share. When you go, this is the Afar Triangle. We call it the Afar Triangle because that is where the Rift Valley opens up, and then down, it goes straight. But right at the gate of the Afar Triangle, in Western Hararghe, 7 years ago, we started surveying, and then we found something new, 10 million year old fossil. I'll tell you about the identity later. It is unique and different. We think the ancestors to these very old human remains may be found, maybe something in this area, because we just started finding bits and pieces of these early groups. So from the time that we split from the chimpanzee line and started being humans. Maybe that fossil record may be found somewhere in this area, because now we are, for the first time, in the last 7 years of research that we did, we are finding new fossils. You go south, somewhere just very close to Addis, there's Melka Country, beautiful site. The oldest bed is about 2 million years. And the youngest, almost like yesterday, about 80,000 years or younger. You go further down, you go to Konso. In Konso, we have another site. And that site, the bottom of the beds is about 1.6, 1.8 million years, and the top is about 1.2 million years. There are two human species who are living side by side who left their fossils behind. One is Homo erectus, which you find it in Europe, in Africa, and Asia. The other one is Australopithecus boisei, which never went north of Konso. For so many years, this fossil was discovered only between Omo and the Olduvai Gorge. But for the first time in 1993, we found just a trace of this fossil in Konso. When you go down, there are a big cluster of sites in the Omo. Now I'm going to give you a glimpse of what we have. So when you are walking in the Rift Valley, when you are driving in this Rift Valley of Ethiopia, what you are doing is basically you are sharing the same landscape that your ancestors walked on millions and millions of years ago. You are basically sharing the same land, walking on the same ground. And sometimes it's really a unique feeling, especially when you touch a fossil. You really feel as if you are really part of that million-year old people who you have no image, you have no sign of anything about them. You feel really you are part of them. That's how you really relate yourself, to the past. So let me not bore you just going, from these places. This is the oldest site. And the most interesting thing is when you walk and survey in the Ethiopian Rift Valley, everything is not exposed. In the middle of these beautiful green areas, there are some windows. These are windows that will take you to the past. These windows are created by tectonics, by Earth's movement, because the Rift Valley is a very active part of the East African system, and the Earth is moving. When the Earth is moving up and down, some sediments get lifted up, and they get exposed, and erosion works on the upstream part. This is unique because the work of this place has been started by researchers, by German researchers, a long time ago. So that is our connection with Germany. The research started more than 40 years ago by German researchers. They discovered lots of fossils from this area, but they didn't find any hominoid, any ape fossil. Then later, it was followed by another group of researchers, the French, and they continued surveying, and they found horses and different animals, but not apes. But it's a very important place, and it's very close. Especially when you grow old, what you always do is you try to do the easy ones. 7 years ago, when I was approaching 60, I was looking for a place where I could drive easily and walk easily to find fossils, because I was used to driving a long distance, like all-day drive and then walking all days. Then when I talked to my colleagues, Dr. Gensua and Dr. Jonas Berhane, why don't we reopen the Cherora site where the Germans and the French worked for so many years, but they didn't find anything. But why don't we try again? One, it's very close. It is south of Addis. about 250 kilometers from Addis. You drive on the paved road, and then you make a turn toward this Harar. From the turnoff, you only drive only 30 kilometers. Then after 30 kilometers, you walk around on this. This is the Gombe Mountains. The Harar road is a paved road, just it goes this way. The other road, it goes to the port, is that way. Then we started surveying. And this is the Afar Triangle, and the place is just right here. We were lucky. We walked the whole area. We surveyed the whole area for 2 weeks. On the last day, right at one of the sites, we found for the first time the first sign of an ape. And we excavated the area. We saved the whole place. We checked everything. Bits and pieces of molar bones and canines. And we checked it and we compared it. And this was the sign of the first gorilla. We never had any record of this ape anywhere in the world. And we know that gorillas and chimpanzees are very close to us. The genetic difference between us and them is about 2%, in fact, less than 2%. And we know that the gorillas split first, and the next ones are the chimpanzees. So if we are able to find this sign, now we have the sign, then we are sure we'll find, there is no missing link, but at least the last common ancestor between chimpanzees and humans. I assume, and I'm sure, if it's not in my lifetime, very soon we'll get that fossil, because I think it's all in the Rift Valley. And I think it should be somewhere between Kenya and Ethiopia. And don't think that I'm too nationalist. I think we'll find it in Ethiopia. Let me take you further down, a long way. That is the Omo. Research in this area started in the early 60s. Lots of fossils have been found in this place. The fossils, the oldest fossils are about 4 million years. The youngest, they go up to 200,000. Different species have been discovered in this period. Australopithecus afarensis, Australopithecus ethiopicus, Australopithecus boisei, Homo habilis, Homo erectus, early Homo sapiens. This is found in these sediments at different levels. So that means when you are walking through these different time periods, you are walking with these different species on the land that these different species have been walking on millions and millions of years ago. This is only in one place, in one area. When you go to the other side, in the Omo, in 1968, they found the first species, Australopithecus ethiopicus. This was the fossil that they found. Yves Coppens, Professor Yves Coppens, and Karl Arenberg from France, they identified this fossil, and they named a new species. They named it Australopithecus ethiopicus. They named it after Ethiopia. And everybody was not willing to accept it because, one, it's only a mandible. Two, the dentitions were totally not preserved, well preserved. It took 20 years for another fossil south of our country in Kenya to be found to confirm this species. Now, Australopithecus ethiopicus, named in the Omo a long time ago, in 1968, is a valid species. I take you back to Hadar. Hadar is a beautiful site. This site has been studied for so many years, since 1970. The first fieldwork at Hadar is in 1971. Till this day, this site is producing fossils. Fortunately or unfortunately, most of the fossils that we find in this area, these different layers, represent different time. But the time period within the Hadar sediments is the youngest is about 3, and the oldest is 3.4. Within that time frame, we've been finding, researchers found lots and lots of Australopithecus afarensis fossils. The Australopithecus afarensis fossils includes Lucy. Now, better than any hominid species ever found anywhere in the world, we know a lot about the biology of this species because we have adults of different sex, male, female. We have young, this is 105. Recently, the Rasana Alam Sagad, who presented to us paper last year, he found also more or less a similar age, a young child of Australopithecus afarensis, which he named Salam, just on the other side of the river. Now we have a good knowledge about this species. They have found more than 300 individuals from this site. In fact, in one particular site, which they named the first family site, known by the number 333, they found a minimum number of 13 individuals just in one place. That gives you the full diversity of that species. And we know the range of variation very well. This is a famous Lucy site. It's spectacular because at the time of discovery, that kind of completeness in those days was unheard of. Now we know about the proportion, the leg and the arm proportion. We know about the body part. We know about the hip morphology. We know a lot about Lucy. Lucy is the most studied specimen so far and still being under study. And it's a very impressive fossil. So we know a lot. Hadar produces so much of that particular species. And there are also other younger fossils, something like Homo habilis from Hadar. Next to Hadar, this is the Gona site. These are the stone tools. Now you can see how humble beginning we all had. When you think about the kind of gadgets that we use, the kind of computers that we use, the laser pointer that we have, the space age, it started from this, from a simple flexed stone tool. And the evidence for that is also at Gona, the Afar region of Ethiopia. The first stone tool makers are from that region. Researchers have continued working in this area. And more areas of that, the Gona, has been under investigation. And we are finding more and more fossils. This is the researcher. It's the guy who started the field work, Dr. Seleshi. This is a picture taken more than 25 years ago. This is me, a younger version of me. Okay? No belly, nothing. But when we worked on that ground, in those days, the only information we had was only about the stone tools. And these researchers continued working. This is his advisor, Professor Jack Harris. When they continued working in the area, they found more fossils. It's not only stone tools at 2.6. Now they found the earliest human remains at about 6 million years ago, Ardipithecus cadaba, at about 6 million years ago. They found also a little higher, closer to time, at around 4.5 million years ago, they found Ardipithecus ramidus. And then they extended their survey within the area. These different exposures all the way up, as different layers represent different time. And they found Homo that is related to us. Homo of different ages. We think they have Homo habilis and Homo erectus, and maybe also Homo sapiens. What is unique about Ethiopia? Different sites in Ethiopia have fossils of varied ages. From a total of about 14 hominid species recognized so far all over the world, I'm talking about the ones that have wide range acceptance. 11 of them are found in Ethiopia. So do you think I'll put my credibility online if I say that Ethiopia is the origin of humankind? If you find 11 out of 14, that's why I think, because I'm not religious, I think if there was something that we can say, Adam and Eve, you may find them here. Because that is, you find almost everything in this place. That's what makes it unique, a unique country. What makes Ethiopia unique is that in some areas, finding bits and pieces in different areas is one thing, in different sites. In one particular place in Ethiopia, the place where I do research, in the Middle Awash, continuous succession from the bottom 6 million years all the way up to 60,000, we found hominids in different time horizons. That means that area has been occupied and used. People lived and died and evolved in this place for 6 million years. I'll take you to that particular place. This is the satellite imagery of Ethiopia. This is the Rift Valley. All of the sites, this is Turkana. Omo is right here. Where I want to take you is just right around here. The Middle Awash. Going there is fun because when you drive from Addis to the Middle Awash, you are going from the highland, from around 2,500 meters, you will drop to 500 meters. That means a change of 2,000 meters in elevation. It's interesting because the gradation of the ecology is also something eye-catching. It's not only the fossils that you find there. Just driving to that area is very impressive. When you drive to Addis at around 140 kilometers to the north, just north of Debre Berhane, there is a window. This is about 3,000 meters above sea level. But through this, if you peek through this, you'll just see a drop of about 2,500 meters. That is the rift. That is the rift where we go. And this is the area where I'm going to take you. Years ago, when I started research, we had to make our own road to get to the fossil sites. This is 20-something years ago. And we drive there, and then finally, when we come back, we used to just use our own trucks to get us back out to the paved road. That is not a long time ago. That is 22 years ago. And then when we finally, this was our destination. These are the exposures. And each and every exposure represents different time. These are windows in time. Those are the ones that do have embedded our history, our past history, inside them. So these are different chapters of our own history, human history. When we go to the fossils, this is how you find them. The fossils were covered millions of years ago. Now nature is doing its work. It's eroding what used to cover these fossils, and it is these fossils that we study. Now, unfortunately, I wish I was born now. It took me 3 days 23 years ago, to drive 300 kilometers from Addis to that destination. Now, there is a road built by the government in every destination where we go. So less than a day, less than half a day, we are at our camp. So when you want to experience these early hominid sites, don't think that you are going to make a road. This is a road. It is very impressive, very, very impressive. Finally, this is where we camp to do our fossils, looking for fossils. The people that we work with, the young, the dogs, the old, everybody is supportive and very friendly. They work with us. Without their support, it's impossible to find anything. Because if you take a laborer with you from Addis, it will cost you a lot. You have to feed him. You have to arrange a tent for him. It's very expensive. So you can't do your research. Your money will be finished. So you need the support of the local people. These are the people who are always on the move. So when we go to do our research, we always pray that we find them there. Sometimes we make arrangements. We give them information ahead of time so that they can wait for us. So when they move, now you can see, these are the Afar people, how simple life can be. They can pack everything, put them on their camels, and then they move. This is Musa, who worked with me till 1992. And he still works with us when we go to his area. And this is a village, the Afar village. This is Dr. Johann Selassie working in one of the older sites. So as you can see, all of the support staff are the local people. The sites are like this. It's desertic when you see it from a distance. Yes, it is. But it was lush and green millions of years ago. The only lush thing that you see now is at the Awash River. This is Ayalu. Just close to Ayalu, there is a beautiful paved road, but you have to cross the river to get here. So that means there is another road. These are the different chapters of our past, our history. Some chapters are thick, some chapters are small. It's just like a book. When you read a book, some chapters are extensive, and some are really narrow. Like this one, this chapter has a lot of things. A lot of things had happened in that chapter. This is around 2.5 million years ago. And the first humans that look like us, who started using stone tools, were just around here. The others, the beginners, who had no tools, who just started walking differently from our closest ancestors, were just right here. So the Middle Awash has, from this, 6 million years all the way up. This is just one window, which takes you to 6 million years ago. This is in one place. I'm not talking about Ethiopia as a whole. I've showed you that glimpse. This is just in one area, in one place. People who lived for 6 million years. This is Australopithecus cadaba. We found this early human, different ages, at 5.2, 5.4, 5.8, but all of them are really similar. The place where we found it is just from the airplane. It's just somewhere in the western margin. When you go close, just cross this river. It's called the Chataya River. There is another site. That site is the Ardipithecus site, and that is 4.4 million years old. The first fossil, in fact, after we announced the species in 1992, we went back to the site in 1994 to find more. The first species identification was done on limited fossils, but we are dreaming for a better fossil. When we went there, Johannes Haile Selassie found this piece, just a finger bone. With that finger bone, we continued searching, and everybody, doesn't matter how old you are, you have to crawl. That is the rule. And all these, almost more than half of them are PhDs, maybe older than 50. Some are as old as 60, like me. They crawled the whole area like a baby. And then we found more and more fossils. We excavated the area for 4 years continuously because it was a very soft bone, very delicate. Then what we found at that age is something like this, a bonanza of fossils, complete human skeleton. A big part of the skeleton was found. That is me, and this is Dr. Johannes. When we started to finish the study, it took us 17 years. 47 researchers from different countries. We all worked together. Some came from Spain, some came from France, some came from Germany. Everybody was involved in this research. And then at the end, this was, we know that this early hominid walked on 2 legs 4.4 million years ago. The face, the artist's reconstruction of the face looked like that. It was a cover of Science. And what we got is this, a complete skeleton. All the important parts were preserved. And this is what we knew about, what we know about the biology of this species. Like apes, it has grasping feet, but it was walking on 2 legs. The brain size is very small, but it was walking on 2 legs. And the other important thing that we learned from this species is the place where it used to live. At present, at this time, it is dry like this. But 4.4 million years ago, it was like Eden of Garden, the Garden of Eden. It's a beautiful, lush, and green area. How did we know? Because these are the fossils that we found. And all of the fossils are forest-loving fossils. Gureza. This gureza, this monkey, you don't find it anywhere else. You find it only in wooded areas. The same thing with birds. The same thing with macromammals, the small mammals. All of them give us a good indication. And we did also study the soil chemistry, and everything gave us the same information. So we thought our first ancestors started walking on 2 legs inside the forest. They were like chimpanzees and gorillas living in the forest. And they walked out of the forest later. When you go higher in the same area, in the Middle Awash, at around 4.2 million years, very close, there is a beautiful lake. That beautiful lake is a fossil lake. What we have is something like this, tilapia, beautiful fossil. I wish it was a human. You can see, it looks like real, fried tilapia. At a higher level, at 4.22, we have Australopithecus anamensis. This hominid is unique because it changed from the earlier form into a new form, the Australopithecus form. And that Australopithecus form is something that Lucy and the others belong to. And higher above, in the same area, in a different chapter, we have Australopithecus afarensis. It is the same one that was found at Hadar and the other places. It was found in Dikika, found in Woransamile, found Middle Awash, found the Omo. By that time, the Australopithecus afarensis was expanding everywhere, but the evidence is also there. This is just to show you the places found from north to south in Ethiopia. That is around 3.4 million years ago. Take you higher. This is the one that might have started using stone tools for the first time. And this is also found in the Middle Awash at around 2.5 million years ago. I'm just walking you through time. This is the place of the excavation. The river is very close. When you go, that is the Awash River. When you go higher, you find at 1 million years ago, you find also a different species. But Australopithecus garhi at 2.5 million years ago, it was using stone tools to break bones and carrying the animal and get the flesh. I think personally, that may be the beginning of the big change, the brain expansion, after we started accessing animal bones. At 1 million years, we find something like this. Homo erectus, with lots of tools. The animal, by this time, Homo erectus was all over, but still they were living in the Middle Awash. In Ethiopia, you find them from north to south, all the way along the rift. In fact, all the way even to the Sudan border, to Chilga. And the animals who lived at the same floor, some are hyenas, some are buffalo. These are the fossils from the Homo erectus level. Some are extinct animals, like this Paleoanthropologist. You find them in different places in the African fossil record. They were also there in Ethiopia. Same thing, these ones, extinct. You find them at Buri, at the Dhaka beds with Homo erectus. Lots of different kinds of pigs. This time, they don't exist anymore. They are extinct. We have very few fossil records of pigs now. But in those days, there were different kinds of pigs. So we are studying not only the humans, we study also the other animals that lived with us side by side. When you go higher, at 500,000 years ago, the brain size expanded. Still, I'm talking about Middle Awash in one place. We have this big brain. Homo erectus was only 900 cc, but this one is 1200 cc, a bigger expanded brain, getting closer to being a Homo sapien. The stone tool did not change. And then you go higher, Homo sapien Idaltu. We called it Idaltu. This is also the same area at Buri in the Afar, in the place where we work. So I brought you from 6 million years all the way to 160,000 years ago. 160,000 years ago, if you think about Europe and Asia and the other continents, there are no Homo sapiens. These are the first Homo sapiens. There were no black and white in those days. These were the only ones. It is after these people moved out of Africa that we all got these different colors and shapes. Now you can see how short the time is to make these varied differences of people. And the record is in Ethiopia, the first ones. And this is also covered by the cultural materials recorded. This is the site where we found Homo sapien Idaltu, the first Homo sapien at 106,000 years ago. This is the Dhaka bed where we found the 1 million year old fossil. Brain size a little bit small, 900 cc. When you go farther out, that is the 2.5 million years. It is all in this area. If you just take a transect, it takes you from 2.5 all the way to 106,000 years ago, in the same area. You go higher, at 106,000 years ago, you find stone tools changing. The cultural materials started changing. The shape are becoming more and more sophisticated. We are getting closer and closer to the laser pointer age. But we had a very humble beginning, and that humble beginning is recorded in the sediments in Ethiopia. You go higher, now you can see how sophisticated it is. Those very crude-looking stone tools now are becoming like arrowheads. And the brain size, much bigger. By about 106,000 years ago, it's already set. Just to give you a summary, the Middle Awash, at least, if you want to see just only, forget the previous 5 million years, time, just only the last 1 million years, this is Homo erectus. It's followed by the bottom one, bigger brained one, about 500,000. And then followed by Homo sapien that we all closely relate to. And then the last one is this is in one area. That's why I say that is where everything began. So all these diversities that you see in this world, this is the roots. The Homo sapiens from Africa are the ones. This is also proved genetically. The genetic studies clearly demonstrated that our roots goes to Africa. What we did is we just got the fossil evidence. Just to summarize, when Homo sapien Idaltu was living in Ethiopia 160,000 years ago, Europe was occupied by the Neanderthals. There were no Homo sapiens. And then later on, these guys expanded their territory. They moved out of Africa. Slowly, the Neanderthals started shrinking. This is natural. When one population expands, the other has to shrink or blend inside. And then later on, the Neanderthals disappeared. Now what we see are the ancestors of Homo sapiens Idaltu all over the world. Just to give you the flesh, this is how they look. This is the artist's reconstruction. This is Homo sapiens Idaltu. That is our ancestor. That's you and me and every one of us. Later on, this is what happened. So, to conclude my talk, I'm sorry I took too long. As we can see from the fossil record, Ethiopia has the best evidence for human evolution. That's why I think that Ethiopia belongs to all of you. That's why I invite every one of you to come and see your ancestors' land. And that's why I think each and every site where we found how many ancestors belong to all of us. And when you come, it's easy to walk on and see and experience the past. Thank you very much. Thanks, Sarah. Thank you.